You twist open a bottle of water. The cap turns, and then stays, still attached, hanging off the neck like it forgot to leave. You push it aside. It swings back. For about 3 seconds, you're mildly annoyed at a piece of plastic the size of your thumbnail. Here's what you didn't know. That little tethered strip is the result of 130 years of argument. A problem first solved by a Baltimore machinist in 1892, a solution that became a global industry worth billions. And then, quietly, a crisis. Discarded caps floating in waterways, wedged into the guts of seabirds, too small for recycling machines to catch. The European Union noticed, and in July 2024, they changed the design of every bottle cap on the continent. That strip of plastic isn't an annoyance. It is the end of a very long argument. The answer changes more than you'd expect. This is the history hiding in plain sight. You've twisted one off a beer bottle at a cookout. You've flicked one across a table, picked it up later, wondered how it got there. You know exactly what it feels like in your hand. You assumed it was always this way. Bottle caps. Standard, universal, inevitable, and that assumption is reasonable. The cap feels like infrastructure, like gravity, like something that simply always existed. It didn't. Before 1892, bottled beverages were a logistical disaster. Carbonation escaped through cork stoppers that dried out and shrank. Rubber and glass contraptions failed under pressure. By the 1880s, the U.S. Patent Office had approved an estimated 1,500 different bottle stopper patents. 1,500 attempts, 0 definitive answers. The real question isn't why someone invented the bottle cap. The question is why it took the entire industrial age and what they got wrong every single time before it. 1888. William Painter, a machinist with no formal higher education, described by contemporaries as an, quote, irrepressible tinkerpreneur, was working as foreman at the Murray and Kaiser machine shop. And he was obsessed. He had already patented 2 stoppers, the Triumph in 1885 and the Baltimore loop seal, a flat rubber disc embedded with a wire loop, cheap enough to discard after one use. It sold. It wasn't enough. He kept going. Between 1888 and 1891, Painter filed 3 progressively refined patent applications. Patent number US 468259, filed November 1889, featured holes in the cap's top to aid removal, but those holes demanded a longer cork insert to prevent leakage, making the design bulky and expensive. He eliminated the holes entirely in patent number US 468258, filed June 1890, then reduced the cork thickness further in patent number US 46888226, filed May 1891. Each iteration stripped away material. Each one narrowed the problem. On February 2, 1892, Painter was granted all 3 patents simultaneously, one for the cap itself, one for the sealing disc composition, one for the use of cork and related materials. His family called it the crown cap. His son Orrin drew the company logo. One contemporary editor wrote that it had crowned one of the most troublesome inventive problems with a success which is simply dazzling. Painter understood something unusual for the 1890s. Disposability was the product's core virtue. In his patent filing, he wrote he had devised metallic sealing caps, so inexpensive as to warrant throwing them away after a single use. That logic held for 130 years. Then it became the problem. This is where it gets strange. Here's what everyone assumes. The crown cap won because it sealed better. That's partially true. But the deeper story isn't about engineering. It's about market architecture. Painter founded Crown Cork and Seal Company in Baltimore in 1892 and immediately set about standardizing the bottleneck itself. He worked with bottling manufacturers to enforce a universal opening dimension, so his caps, and only designs built to his specification, would fit. He didn't just invent the product, he engineered the dependency. By the time his original patents expired in 1909, the crown finish bottle was so deeply embedded in manufacturing infrastructure that no competitor could unseat the standard. By 1923, the relevant national standards body, formally codified that bottle finish into law, cementing dominance in regulation as well as habit. Then Prohibition hit. The 18th Amendment took effect in 1920, and the American beer industry collapsed overnight. Crown Cork and Seal pivoted to soft drink production and survived while competitors folded. When Prohibition ended in 1933, the company simply collected both markets, beer and soda, an empire built on a crimped disc of metal and a sliver of cork liner. In the 1950s, material costs drove further redesign. The cap's tooth count dropped from 24 to 21 crimps. The cork liner was replaced with plastic compound. The cap that Heineken and Coca-Cola still put on glass bottles today carries those same 21 teeth. So, if a design invented in 1892 still seals every glass bottle of beer on Earth, what finally forced the change? Brussels, 2018. The European Commission released its first draft of what would become Directive 2019-904. The document targeted single-use plastic products, cotton buds, plastic straws, cutlery, and buried in Article 6, bottle caps. Here's the number that drove it. According to Ireland's National Litter Pollution Monitoring System, bottle caps and lids account for roughly 15% of packaging litter. Not full bottles, just caps. Because when a cap separates from its container, standard recycling sorting equipment can't process it. Too small, too light. It falls through the conveyor system, out of the facility, into a drain. The EU estimated that keeping caps attached to bottles could eliminate roughly 10% of plastic litter on European beaches. One design change, 10%. The beverage and packaging industries pushed back, hard. Companies raised concerns about retooling costs estimated between 2.7 and 8.7 billion euros across the sector. They argued better recycling infrastructure would deliver more impact per euro spent. The European Commission held the mandate. By May 2023, the European Committee for Standardization, CEN, had published harmonized technical standards. Tethered caps must withstand a tensile force of at least 25 newtons before detaching. Compatible with existing bottle threads. No compromise to ease of use. On July 3, 2024, the regulation came into force. William Painter, in 1892, called disposability an explicit design virtue, wrote it into his patent application. The European Union, in 2024, made that exact virtue a legal violation. Same object, opposite conclusions, 132 years apart. Coca-Cola redesigned its entire European bottle portfolio. Ballygowan Water in Ireland switched every product in its range. Brands that had manufactured caps the same way for decades retooled their lines within years to meet the July 2024 deadline. Industry estimates put the sector-wide cost between 2.7 and 8.7 billion euros. They absorbed it anyway. What's striking is how quickly the tethered cap became invisible. You twist it open, the band flexes, the cap stays. 3 seconds. You've already stopped noticing, which is exactly what happened with the crown cap after 1892. Within a generation, it was simply how bottles worked. The infrastructure disappeared into the background. That's the pattern. Every redesign of this object was, at its core, a redesign of habit. Painter changed how bottles were sealed. The EU changed what that seal means, something worth sitting with the next time you open one. The next time you open a bottle, really open one, look at that small strip of plastic still hanging there. It took 130 years to reach this exact shape. A machinist's obsession in 1888, 3 patent filings, a century of discarded caps tallied on beach surveys, a parliamentary directive, a harmonized standard, a 25-Newton tensile test. Every object you hold carries the weight of every decision that made it. The tethered cap is just honest enough to show you the chain. If this object made you look twice, there's more where that came from. Drop a comment. What everyday object do you want us to cover next? Subscribe. We put out a new one every week. This is Object Lore. The history of the world is hiding in plain sight. Until next time.